bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Today's show is sponsored by RXBAR. You can check it out over at rxbar.com/LakersNation. Get 25% off your first order of some amazing protein bars. I eat them myself every single day and absolutely love them. Well, we do have some new things going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. A change in the situation with Luol Deng. We're going to be talking all about it. I've got Sliwa of ESPN joining me. You can find him on Twitter at Lakers Talk ESPN. Alan, thanks so much for hopping on, man.
Of course, Trev. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, so we were just talking before we went on the air about how there hasn't been a whole lot going on in the world of the Lakers. There's always things to talk about, but I mean, nothing really new going on over the last month or so. We're kind of in the dog days of the NBA season or the NBA offseason. And right before we decide to go on here, word breaks, Luol Deng is being stretched and waived, and it gives us something to really sink our teeth into. So I'm excited. What do you make of this whole situation? I mean, there's some eyebrows being raised over the timing of this, but I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I was actually a little bit surprised. I was a little surprised. Obviously, this is something that the Lakers have the ability to do, and it's one of those where I felt like the worst of this 4-year contract, this full $72 million guaranteed contract. The worst of the contract is over. You know, the first 2 years I thought was the worst part of it because, look, you're going to have Luol Deng for multiple years. It's a tough contract to get rid of. The money doesn't make sense. Where he is in his career doesn't make sense. But you got past those first 2 years. So the final 2 years, as you get close to expiring contract, that becomes a little bit more attractive to some teams out there. But obviously the Lakers, in thinking big picture here, and what I'm talking to or referring to more specifically is next season and the options that they're going to have in 2019, where now they're in a position where I think they had about $25 million of cap space. Now you're in that $36 to $38 million range. So you certainly now can afford another max player, and that's obviously going to be the Lakers' focus next season.
Yeah, as of right now, we don't know the exact figure, and I'm keeping an eye out on Twitter here to see if the news breaks while we're talking. But as of right now, we know that there's been a buyout. We know Luol Deng has given back some money, but we won't know for sure how much cap space the Lakers are freeing up for next summer until we have those final numbers in. But yeah, for right now, I mean, we do know that one way or another, the Lakers will have enough cap space now to go after a max free agent, and they don't have to make a trade or anything to do it. They don't have to convince a team to take on Luol Deng by giving up a first round pick. So as much as this is a move to sort of allow Luol Deng to move on, it's also a move for the Lakers to be able to sign that max player and not have any teams hold them over a barrel on the trade market. They now have that leverage where they're there at max cap space without anyone else's help. So I think that's big as well. Alan, what do you think about their chances next summer? Now that they have this max slot available, was this the right move to hang on to their future assets and not part with any of them in order to get Luol Deng? And do you think it pays off next summer on the free agent market?
Well, I always thought, I mean, you know, the moment they got LeBron James, and even before LeBron, you felt like the tide was turning, that the Lakers were in a position to, excuse me there, Trevor, that the Lakers were in a position to, obviously attract a big name. But once LeBron came, I mean, I think it made it where in the past it was like, can one person come and just take the Lakers' money? Please, we have all this money. Now I really, really feel it's going to be more about this summer. Who the Lakers want to take their money, and I think there are going to be some options. And I know we've thrown out Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, and whether by the time next season rolls around or at least free agency starts, if the predicament is still the same where all these guys are unrestricted free agents, we'll have to wait and see. But they're in as good as a position as literally any team in the NBA because you have a combination of you got money, you got the best player in the world, and you have this young group of kids that you feel like have a lot of promise. There aren't too many teams that can say that right now in the NBA. And but where the Lakers have been the last couple of years, if you're a Laker fan, you're certainly looking at their predicament, their situation, and you got to be optimistic about it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're in great shape, especially if LeBron has another season where he just seems to hold off Father Time and he looks really good. Then, of course, the Lakers will be a nice destination for free agents. You know, when you look at this whole Luol Deng situation and him being waived here, it's the date. It's September 1st, and that means that the Lakers can absorb his full salary this coming year in 2018, 2019, and then next year is when they can start stretching it. So that means now the Lakers will have 3 years on the books of Luol Deng. We don't know exactly how much yet, depends on how much he gave back, but they're going to have him as dead money on the books for 3 years after this one. But the trade-off is now they have that ability to go after a max free agent. From Deng's perspective, he can now go out and sign with any team that he wants. Do you have any favorites or any place where you'd like to see him wind up? Because, I mean, from all accounts, Luol Deng is a good guy. He got a contract that put him in a tough spot.
You know, I had some conversations last year with Luol Deng, and a lot of times before the games start, a lot of the players are in the locker rooms, and Deng was, you know, when you have somebody that's been in the league like he has, and he's a good dude. He really is. Like, you know, he's an easy one to approach. He's an easy one to have a nice conversation with. And even though a lot of Laker fans are upset or were upset with Luol Deng, you know, he didn't. That contract was offered to him by the Lakers. He would be crazy not to take the amount of money that the Lakers gave him. Obviously, with the previous regime, it's not his fault that a team way overpaid for him. And then a new regime came in and decided, listen, we have a completely different vision, and we don't want to use you as part of that. I love to see Deng get into a predicament where he's on a playoff team. Maybe even goes back to the Eastern Conference, you know, is a part of a team out there where he could be a presence, not just in the locker room. In the conversations I had with Deng, you know, he felt like 32, 33 years old, right around that age, that he still had a lot of good years left, but he obviously wasn't a plan for the Lakers. I think he will find, you know, a situation or a predicament where there'll be a team that he can contribute to. If you remember his years when he was in Chicago, he was a big part of that team, and maybe he doesn't have those years anymore when he was in his prime. But I still think he could be, you know, an asset to the right team and the right fit.
I feel like Tom Thibodeau's ears must have perked up as soon as the Luol Deng waivers went through. As soon as that news broke, I mean, he must have gotten a little bit interested in Minnesota, because he's been trying to sort of recreate the Chicago Bulls there. And who knows, same thing may happen with Joakim Noah. So we could see Bulls version 2.0 in Minnesota if Deng winds up there. I've been seeing a lot of that. Any place else that you think might be a really good fit for him?
You know, I look at teams like the Toronto Raptors. I look at teams like even the Philadelphia 76ers. Teams that maybe even the Washington Wizards, teams that have an opportunity to make some noise in the Eastern Conference, but maybe they're not the best team when it comes to from a stability isn't the right word, but you know, you're trying to add like good veteran leadership. That's what I think Deng could bring to the table to teams like that, where they're going to be in the playoffs. They got a chance to make some noise in the East, and a player like Luol Deng might be the difference of them, you know, getting past another round, or at least calming down the locker room to where people are all pulling that rope in the same direction. Those are the types of teams that come to mind.
And that's exactly what the Lakers wanted out of Luol Deng, right? I mean, they wanted him to be that veteran presence. Just the price proved to be prohibitive. I mean, it wasn't something that was going to work out for them to pay him $18 million a year and still try to assemble a contending team. I mean, if Luol Deng was making $2 million or $3 million or something like that, he's probably still a Laker. Just his contract was what the big issue was. Let's talk about another side of this whole thing. And that's that with Luol Deng now off the roster, that means that there is an open spot on the team. Do you have any idea how the Lakers might move forward with this? Are they going to be bringing in some free agents, or maybe looking at guys in training camp? How do you think they should proceed with this open roster spot?
I think it's definitely going to be one of those training camp predicaments, one of those training camp situations where Lakers are going to try out some people. Because here's the reality. With or without Luol Deng, the Lakers were deep. You know, when they signed Lance Stevenson and Rajon Rondo and Michael Beasley and JaVale McGee, you drafted 3 players, 2 of them that might get some playing time in the rotation this upcoming season. You had all those 4 young guys, LeBron James. I mean, Lakers have many players right now. I think one area that I'd love to see the Lakers try and use that roster spot is, I don't know how much size the Lakers have, and
Yep.
I know in today's NBA, speed is the name of the game, and you got players that can play multiple positions, but some type of enforcer that's there to play defense, that maybe is a rim protector. I think JaVale McGee fills part of that role, but I'd love to see them, maybe take some chances. Maybe look at some of these international players that have a good skill set but can still play some defense. But I think training camp is how they're going to use that last roster spot. Just like they've said from the beginning, this is an open competition. They want people fighting for minutes. They want people fighting for roster spots. I think that's what you'll see. What happens to Luol Deng's spot is they're going to bring some people in and may the best survive.
Let me throw a name out there that I've seen pop up, and actually he was up in the news yesterday, and he has a connection to Rob Pelinka, and that's part of the reason why we've seen him at Lakers practices. Chris Bosh. What do you think? I mean, it scares me because of the health issues. I mean, the blood clotting issue, that's a life-threatening thing, and it's scary, but what's your take? Do you think they should maybe kick the tires and let him come into training camp and see what he can do, or is it just better just to stay away?
Man, listen, Chris Bosh was as much criticism as Chris Bosh was always the one to point the finger at anytime anything went wrong in Miami. But Chris Bosh is a bona fide star, and he's proved it, an all-star for many years in the NBA. I love the idea of Chris Bosh. The issue obviously is that's one of those situations that you got to just make sure from a health perspective that he's okay, and that's something that I'm sure has to get approved by a number of different people. And I think if Chris Bosh was healthy, it wouldn't just be the Lakers trying to get his services. It'd be a number of different teams trying to get his services, and his relationship with LeBron James. And you mentioned as well, Rob Pelinka, maybe there's a leg up there, but the reality is it just comes down to his health. If Chris Bosh was in a position to come back and make some type of a return, no question about it, there'd be a roster spot, open for a player of that caliber. But again, I just comes down to the health side of it. We've watched Chris Bosh. Trevor, you and I are obviously huge NBA fans and basketball fans. That's as good of a all-around player you can get in the NBA at his size, and he would be fantastic. But I would feel much more confident if it was a conversation where you felt like a lot of teams were interested because you felt like his health was good. But I don't know if that's realistic, just because a player like that with his skill set, you would have thought somebody would have already taken a chance if they felt like he was okay from a health perspective. Yeah,
that's a fantastic point. I mean, we're talking about Chris Bosh, a multi-time All-Star. This guy was an incredible player. And if there was any chance that he was not a health risk, then you would think somebody would already be paying him. He said just yesterday or the day before that he does want to come back, that he wants to continue his playing career. And he's been saying that for a while now, but nobody's willing to take the risk on him. That sort of raises red flags that obviously something is going on there where teams don't feel comfortable with it. And realistically, it is his life on the line. Like if something goes wrong, he could die from it. That's the seriousness of it. And I think that's where teams are hesitant, obviously, as they should be. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, absolutely.
It's unfortunate for him. Like he is one of those players where, look, he's an easy guy to root for in this sense. His skill set is so beautiful. Like he plays the game of basketball the right way. He was a player, whether you were rooting for the Heat or you weren't, you respect how he kind of took that third chair, that role of whatever you guys need me to do as kind of the third wheel behind Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. He can post up. He can face 15 feet from the outside, 18 feet from the outside and hit jumpers. He can play defense. I mean, Chris Bosh is, when you're putting together a player that could be in the NBA and play 12 years, 15 years and be, multiple All-Star, that's the type of player that you put together. And it's unfortunate that he's kind of had his career cut short.
Let's throw out another name that I've seen out there. I agree with you. I think ultimately it's going to come down to training camp, but who knows? I mean, with the win now situation, yes, their roster's already deep, but maybe they go after somebody. Jamal Crawford is another guy who's out there. Any interest in him?
Yeah, look, Crawford, we got a lot of opportunity to watch him as the Lakers and the Clippers would play each other. And it feels like every time Crawford touched the ball, he was hitting daggers against not just the Lakers, but a lot of other teams.
Everybody.
One of the things I've heard about Jamal Crawford and for the Lakers, and I know Pelinka tried mentioning it, that look, we have a lot better shooters than people think. But one of the things I say about Crawford is I've heard so many good things about him off the court, in the locker room. And he's a player that can get his own buckets, which is kind of what they got in Michael Beasley, even though they play, different positions. I'm actually surprised Jamal Crawford wasn't picked up by anybody else. I know last year he played with the T-Wolves, and he's obviously up there from an age perspective. If the Lakers decided tomorrow they're going to use that last roster spot of Jamal Crawford, I'm not disappointed in that at all. I think maybe Crawford still has some years left in him, but I think just as important, he's a veteran. He's been in playoff battles. He knows how to win games. He knows how to, he's not somebody that's there to disrupt the locker room or anything like that. I think Crawford is a kind of an ultimate pro that can also still contribute in an area that the Lakers need some help in, which is shooting.
My concern with him, and this is a concern that I've seen echoed by a lot of Lakers fans, is what if Crawford is stealing minutes from, say, Josh Hart, and he's really the one that they look at, because the thought is that if he's going to play anywhere, it's probably going to be at the 2. You're not going to play Crawford at the 1, and then therefore he's cutting into Josh Hart's minutes. Would that be a concern for you, or is the benefit of Crawford in the locker room great enough to where it doesn't really matter if he gets out on the court or not?
You know what? I'm honestly not concerned about any of the kids' minutes. I think they're going to get the bulk of the minutes this year. I think if you don't see them in key situations or in key games, it's because they're either having a bad game or somebody else is having a good game, which is what you want from your team. You don't want anyone to be getting minutes just because of their name or just because they're young or just because they're a veteran. You want them in the game because they're playing the best, because they're giving your team in this specific, instance, the best chance to win. So I'm not worried about Josh Hart. I'm not worried about Ingram or Lonzo Ball. These guys are obviously very, very young. I think the way the front office has built the team, I think the way Coach Walton's going to coach this season, you're going to get minutes because you're contributing. And I think these guys are going to contribute. And the reality is, if they're not contributing, then that means there's somebody else that's putting in quality minutes. So I'm really, really not concerned. I mean, I think in the past when the Lakers were just had draft picks everywhere and you didn't really know the direction, you wanted to see the young kids play. I think we're going to see the young kids play, but I also love the fact that they're going to have to earn those minutes too.
Yeah, it's all about winning now, and that's the shift. That's what bringing LeBron James means. It means that now you have to win basketball games, and whether that's Jamal Crawford or some of the other veterans doing it, Lance Stevenson, or the young kids, whoever's getting the job done is the guy who's going to get the minutes. And I think that's the way it has to be at this point, because the Lakers are now.
Yeah, it's good, Trevor.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Trevor. I was just going to say it feels good, right? Like that's first time in so long where that's the thing that just sticks in them. It's like a season, because the competitive part of it, us as fans, that's what we root for. We're rooting for a chance to watch your team win. In the last 5 years, you haven't tasted that at all. And now all of a sudden, when we're talking and I'm saying, I don't care whether Hart gets the bulk of the minutes or not, I just want to win. That's what it kind of like comes down to. That's the whole purpose of sports and competition. And I think a lot of these players feel that way too. They're just, I think they're going to have this mindset of, you don't care how we win, let's just try and win. And I think that's, obviously something that LeBron, Rajon Rondo, some of these veterans, it's going to wear off to some of the young kids as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, for the record, I think that winning basketball and Josh Hart are going to go hand in hand. I think that the team is going to play Josh Hart in order to win, because I think he's a great player, and I think he's gonna do really well this season. But yeah, I agree. I don't think I'm too worried about a guy stealing the young kids' minutes, because whoever is playing well should go ahead and get those minutes. Another name that's out there is Rodney Hood. Obviously, he'd be an interesting fit, especially because he's on the younger end, maybe somebody they could bring up. But it's going to be fun to see what the Lakers wind up doing with this open spot. We're going to take a quick break to talk a little bit about RX bars, which you probably recognize when you see them in the store. They are the protein bar that has the ingredients right in big bold letters on the front of the package. They believe in transparency. They tell you exactly what you're putting in your body, which is so important in this day and age. Now, RX bar uses egg whites for protein, dates to bind, nuts for texture, and other delicious ingredients like unsweetened chocolate, real fruit, and spices like sea salt or cinnamon. Because hey, who knew? Real food ingredients actually taste really good. They are gluten-free, soy-free, and dairy-free. They're also great on a number of different occasions. They're super small and portable, really easy to put in your pocket and go. You can grab them for breakfast, have one in the afternoon to help you get through the mid-afternoon slump, have them as a pre-workout, as a post-workout, great little protein boost for you. And again, egg white protein is super easy for your body to absorb. They also come in 14 different flavors, which makes it almost a certainty that you are going to find one that you like, or in my case, it's going to turn out that you like all of them. Plus, they have seasonal flavors as well. So there's always something new coming out that you can try. Personally, I've been trying all of them. And the thing that's really stood out to me is that the ones I didn't expect to like mixed berry and blue, I'm not really a berry guy, are the ones that I've ended up liking quite a bit. Peanut butter actually stands at the top, but I think mixed berry is my second favorite of all the RX bars. The other thing is, for me, the RX bars have been amazing because of the dairy-free aspect to it. I'm lactose intolerant, and it's hard for me to find protein sources out on the market that are dairy-free. It's something that's not easy to do. And RX bar is one thing that I've been using in the afternoon. I've been eating them to help me get through the day. And it's a nice little protein burst right before I go work out. And it's been really, really good. I've really enjoyed RX bars. They've helped me get my protein levels up high enough to where I can actually build muscle from the weightlifting that I've been doing. So RX bars have been something that I've been using personally and really, really enjoyed. And perhaps the best thing for you guys listening is that you can actually get 25% off just because you're listening to this show. Just go to rxbar.com/LakersNation and then enter the code LakersNation at checkout. Again, that's rxbar.com/LakersNation. Enter that promo code LakersNation at checkout. Get 25% off. Again, my recommendation, try them. Try all of them. And you're going to find that you like ones, even that maybe that you didn't expect to like. That's been my experience anyway. They're all really, really good. I've yet to go wrong with any of the flavors. Definitely go check them out. rxbar.com/LakersNation. One thing that I want to move on to is Lonzo Ball. And we recently saw, it was just the other day, some video was posted online from the Lakers practice facility. And it showed Lonzo working on his jumper. Alan, did you see that footage, and did you notice a difference in his jump shot?
Yeah, it looks like the jumper's coming more from kind of the center from instead of the side. You know how he's kind of had that like swing motion or whatever. And I felt like it was kind of a quicker release. I felt like there was a little bit more control. There's been a lot of like good footage that shows Lonzo Ball when he was hitting jumpers versus when he was missing jumpers. A lot of it had to do with his balance. A lot of it. I've never been somebody that paid too close attention to his form, because I think shooters are shooters, and I think there are a lot of times where it might not look pretty, but somebody that does something over and over, that repetitive, form that they're accustomed to and that they're comfortable with, gives them the greatest likelihood to make a shot. But the adjustments that, you saw in those kind of like brief, 10, 15 second video clips shows it looks like somebody under more control. And I think that's probably what the Lakers are trying to do, where they're not trying to change his entire shot, but also mechanically put him in a position to where he's just under more control, that he has gives himself a better opportunity to make a shot, because his form is consistent, but his body is consistent as well. And I did get a chance to watch that video.
Yeah, I think it was definitely coming off quicker. It looked to me like maybe the release was coming a little bit from more central too. It wasn't quite as far over on the left side of his face on the release. And his form has always been funky, but I think you're right. You think about guys like Kevin Martin, right? Or Sean Marion, who had strange releases and they were still effective.
Miller.
Reggie, hey, that one of the greatest shooters, right? Reggie Miller. There's another good one. So yeah, these guys can still be effective, but I do like that he's at least tweaked it a little bit. It still has a lot of what he had previously done, but hopefully these improvements will allow him to become a more efficient shooter, which to me, and I'll get your take on this, Alan, but to me, I think his outside shot is the thing he has to improve this season above anything else, above all the other things that he needs to work on. I think the outside shot is the most important. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'd say this. Look, the reality is, he shot so poorly this past season, and I'm not even talking about just the three-point shooting, his field goal percentage overall, his free throws. I mean, the free throws is what probably killed me the most, because
the free throws were brutal.
Here's a point guard that you want to come to the line and be that kind of clutch guy that says, hey, anytime I'm at the free throw strike, you can chalk those up for two points right there. To make some adjustments is because it's needed, So I'll give you a good example, and I've said this a couple times. Any player, especially in their rookie year, there are going to be holes in their game, and in the summer you work on whatever those holes are. Maybe for one player it's his footwork. Maybe for another player it's boxing out properly. Maybe another player it's sliding their feet better on defense. Whatever the case is, every player is going to have holes. Even Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell. For Lonzo Ball, it's obvious what his hole was. His hole was his efficiency from a shooting perspective. I think the outside jumper is very, very key, but to me, I kind of get a little bit more. I guess you could use a microscope a little bit more. Hit your free throws. That to me is such a big part of his game that I feel like he'll be more confident to driving the ball. He'll be more confident in kind of drawing contact. And sometimes a lot of these players, you make a couple buckets around the basket or you hit a couple free throws, all of a sudden your confidence level increases. And now that 18-footer isn't as difficult or that 22-footer isn't as difficult. So, yes, Lonzo's got to improve his shot. For me, hit your free throws, get to the free throw line more. I think that could change his entire game.
What would you be hoping for? What would be ideal? He shot it was right around 45% from the free throw line. What do you think is a realistic goal for him for this next season, or what would you be happy with anyway?
The team shot just under 70%. That was the team's average. You're a point guard in the NBA. You shouldn't be below your team's average, and he was obviously well below that. So, and maybe I'm too optimistic to say he should be shooting between 65 and 70% from the free throw line. But think about it, Trevor. That's not a good free throw percentage.
No, that's not for a point guard.
So, it's not, So, to be asking for him to be around that 65% mark, I think it's doable. I think, I'm not 100% sure what he shot at UCLA. I know what he shot from the three-point line. I don't know what he shot from the free throw line. But why can't he be in that high 60 range? And that I think would be that in my opinion could change his game from the offensive side, because I really do feel I feel like he won't be as hesitant to drive the ball. I really felt there were times he was avoiding contact or he was avoiding getting into the paint because I don't think he was confident to hit his free throws. And if he can get maybe in that 65 to 70% range, which is right around where the team was, I think it's not only doable, it's needed. It's very, very necessary for him to be there.
I think if you can get to that range, the other side of it is that you prevent the hack Alonzo strategy, which we started to see at the end of the season. In terms of points per possession, if you can get up that high, then you're no longer in a spot where it makes sense for the opposing team to foul you, because you're going to be scoring more points than the team would if they just ran out their offense. Whereas towards the middle to the end of last season, we saw teams fouling Lonzo on purpose because they knew he couldn't hit his free throws. So that was actually going to hamper the Lakers offense. I mean, of course, we'll still see it, in end of game situations where teams are trying to catch back up or the clock's running out or whatever. But overall, I mean, I don't want my point guard to be the guy the teams are hacking to put him on the free throw line. I want my point guard to be the guy that's going to step up and hit those shots.
Well, and look at it too. You brought in Rajon Rondo, which both of those guys have very similar games, and Rajon Rondo is not exactly known as being Ray Allen from the free throw line or from the outside. So, right. And that's not to say you cannot make a career and have a very successful career not being the best shooter on the court, because we've certainly seen many point guards. You can use Rajon Rondo as an example, but between those two players, there's probably going to be a time, any time during the game, where your point guard is not exactly going to be your your primary scorer. But they also bring a lot of other assets to the table that, obviously makes you have to have them on the court. But the free throw line is those are gimmies. That's something that you heard Coach Luke Walton talk about. You heard Magic and Pelinka talk about it in the exit meetings. You lose 5, 7, 10 points a game from the free throw line. I mean, think about how many wins that could be if you're a team out there that hits free throws versus a team that doesn't hit free throws. And Lonzo certainly had something to do with that.
I'll tell you what, Alan, I don't want to sound like I'm ripping on Lonzo too much, because I think what is really exciting is we talk about these holes in his game. We talk about his free throw shooting. We talk about his field goal shooting. If he can improve in those areas, he was already last season, I want to say he was either top 4 or top 5 in terms of points per possession given up on the defensive end from all point guards across the entire NBA. You're talking about a next level defender potentially. If he can start converting those shots, I mean, he has a lot of potential to improve. So I don't want to sound like we're down on Lonzo or anything like that, because if he does improve in those areas, man, watch out. We could be looking at one heck of a player.
Well, let me say this, and I said this a lot on, my show is 10, 7, and 7. If that's your average in your rookie season, granted, he only played 50 games. He was effective when he was on the court. His vision is ridiculous. There are players who've been in the league for 10 years, and they've been point guards for 10 years. They don't have the vision he has. They don't have the instincts he has. They don't have the touch that he has when it comes to passing or those outlet passes. The kid's got skill. And I think, many people in the NBA can see that. But like anybody at that age, you're going to have holes. And it's a lot easier to talk about. This is what happens a lot. A lot of people, especially, critics or people in the media, and I catch myself doing it too. I talk about things that somebody needs to improve on, and maybe I don't highlight the things that they do very, very well. But I do feel like with Lonzo, I do feel that we have said a lot of positive things as well. But this is an important year for him. For this upcoming season, for him coming off, some of the injuries that he had, for him being the number 2 pick, for players like Tatum and Donovan Mitchell and Dennis Smith Jr. having really good rookie seasons. Everybody wants to see Lonzo take his game to the next level, and the reality is there's enough talent on this team to, I think, watch him flourish this upcoming year.
Yeah, agreed. I think that he's got enough talent around him to where, and that's where he's really going to excel, is when he's got talent around him, because that's his game. So I'm excited to see what Lonzo Ball can bring this season, and let's hope those shooting percentages can go up, both from 3-point line, from the 2, and from the free throw line. So if he can do that, man, the Lakers could have a real talent here. Let's wrap up talking a little bit about Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, because at this point we're kind of closing off the summer. We've had a year and a half now of Magic and Pelinka. What's your overall assessment? Jeannie Buss had a comment the other day that Magic has far exceeded expectations. Do you agree with that? Have Magic Johnson and Pelinka delivered in the way that they were expected to?
So think about this, Trevor. They've been in front office now for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I think Magic came in February 21st, 2017. And in that time that he's been here, let's count today too, right? The fact that the Luol Deng will be on the books this year, which is great, because what else are you going to use that money for? They're now obviously just the final year of his contract. That's what's going to be stretched. And like you mentioned, we don't even know what the buyout terms are. So maybe that's a pretty limited amount of money that goes into that 3-year stretch. That means they had gotten rid of Timofey Mozgov's contract. They had gotten rid of Luol Deng's contract, which are arguably 2 of the worst contracts that we've seen in the NBA, in the history of the NBA. They went out and drafted Kyle Kuzma, who's a real rotational player. They went out and drafted Josh Hart, who's a real rotational player. They signed the best player in the world in LeBron James. There is a perception around the NBA and in the league that, wow, things are really changing in Los Angeles. Look what Magic and Pelinka are doing. They've brought in tough, gritty players. I think they're, really obviously working on the young kids to try and have them understand what it takes to be winners in the NBA. They've done a lot since the moment they got here, and to have that much change in just a year and a half time, I think it's pretty significant. And if you have another example of a front office that's come in and has done as much as they have in this brief amount of time, remind me of who it is. But I think what they've done has been outstanding. And I think more important than anything that they've done, you see that this is only going in the right direction and that probably the best is yet to come.
Yeah, they certainly haven't sat on their hands or anything, have they? They've been incredibly active in terms of trades, in terms of free agent signings. They are really, really making things happen. And I think that's one of the things that fans are appreciating. It's clear what their plan is, what they're doing moving forward, and they are making it happen. So that's, I agree. They've been impressive. I mean, there were a lot of question marks heading in. Magic Johnson had no experience in this role. Rob Pelinka, while he was well known in the agent world, didn't have any experience being the general manager of a team. And yet so far, they have been extremely successful, I think. I mean, there have been a few little bumps along the way, sure. I mean, the Julius Randle situation, obviously, they would like to have seen some sort of return for him in exchange for losing a young player like that. But otherwise, they've made some smart moves. And I think the biggest thing, and maybe the most underrated aspect of what they've done, is really trusting in the team's scouting department, because their draft picks have been phenomenal. And not to say they weren't good before, but they're made some wonderful selections here. I mean, we're talking about guys, of course, landing guys like Josh Hart late in the draft. I mean, there's been a number of selections that they've made that have really worked out for them. So far, so good, I think, here from Magic and Pelinka.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, Trevor. You mentioned, and I think it's fair to say, and as much as we give praise where it's given credit, I think you mentioning Julius Randle is important. I think you're absolutely right on that. I think their vision is, as much as they probably had liked to see Julius Randle stay, if that money is going to cost them signing a guy like Kawhi Leonard next summer or a guy like Jimmy Butler next summer, then they had to make the decision and say, all right, well, we just cannot give you the amount of money you're looking for or the amount of years you're looking for, because we can't risk getting a top 5 or a top 10 player in the NBA. And then, another thing you could look at too, if we're gonna be critical on certain things, I think the next couple of years are going to be very important to see what does happen with Lonzo Ball, because Jason Tatum over in Boston looks like a bona fide all-star, and he was picked number 3. So the Lakers obviously had an opportunity to pick Jason Tatum. That might be something that we look back on and make mention that the front office made a mistake. But let's give Lonzo 2-3 years in the NBA. Let's give Tatum 2-3 more years in the NBA. I think we'll have a much better idea of what those two players will be.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we don't know exactly what these guys are going to turn out to be just yet. It takes some time to find out exactly what they are. But I mean, all in all, so far you have to be pretty pleased when you look at the big picture of what Magic and Pelinka have done. And I guess the biggest thing really is just landing LeBron. I mean, that's what Magic Johnson was brought in to do, was to land that superstar free agent that for whatever reason Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss were not able to do. They didn't land those pieces. And Magic Johnson comes in, lo and behold, a year and a half later, the job is done. They land that big piece, and now they're going to look to land another one. And then how they build the team from here is ultimately going to determine how successful they are. Do we get a perennial contender? Are the Lakers back to being a powerhouse, or how does it go? But you know what? Overall, so far so good for Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka. I've been really impressed, and I think that they've made mostly the right moves at every step of the way.
Yeah, I love to the moment the Lakers got LeBron, then some of the criticism came out and saying, oh, well, LeBron was going to sign with the Lakers anyways. And, I think there's a lot of people that don't follow the Lakers like you and I do, where we genuinely have interest and enjoy watching Lakers basketball and have always followed them. And I think they don't realize or understand that every free agent over the last 5 to 7 years was supposed to come to the Lakers, right? Everybody's coming. This player is going to sign. That player is going to sign. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Magic has shown that, look, there's stability in this organization. We know where we're going. Whether we get you or we don't get you, we have a vision and a plan that I don't think that's happening in any stretch of the imagination if the previous regime was still part of the Lakers. But I do think it happened because LeBron saw the vision that Magic, Pelinka, and Jeanie Buss have, and obviously Coach Luke Walton. So I give 100% credit to Magic and Rob Pelinka for making that happen.
As well as Jeanie Buss for pulling the trigger and ousting Jim Buss, her brother, which wasn't easy, and having faith in Magic and Pelinka to get this done.
Yeah, no question about it.
So, Alan, let me wrap up with this, because you mentioned that you've been a lifelong Lakers fan. Obviously, I have as well. Chris McGee and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious, what was your reaction to the LeBron James signing? When the word first broke, when you first heard, how did you react?
So it's kind of funny because I was in Sequoia National Park. I did some camping out there for a couple of days, and literally on July 1st, I was out there, and I had satellite radio, so I can hear. I had got no service or anything like that, but I could hear Paul George wasn't going to give the Lakers a meeting. He was re-signing with Oklahoma City. And I actually thought that really scared me right there. I was just like, man, we need to get a meeting. It just seemed like every other year over the last, 5-6 years or so. And by the time I got back to Los Angeles, I was actually doing a quick clip for YouTube on Paul George not even giving the Lakers a meeting, and then boom, it all, obviously broke on LeBron James. My initial reaction was this. I think for a long time, people had thought, hey, LeBron James has a good chance of coming to the Lakers. But, to kind of process that, it was difficult to understand and process. What do you mean LeBron's going to be a Laker? Even yesterday, I was doing something with Spectrum Sports, and, you see LeBron in a Laker jersey, and you start thinking to yourself, there's going to be times Lonzo's throwing a lob to LeBron a no-look to Brandon Ingram. Like, just to even have that conversation and try and envision it, it's a little surreal. It's not something that I'm still kind of trying to process it and make it make sense. We talk about it, we go over all these different scenarios, but until we get to September 29th and that first preseason game is down in San Diego and we see LeBron coming out of the tunnels, until we get to media day where LeBron James is taking photos in the Lakers jersey and everything else, it's crazy to think, man. And it was tough for me to envision it when it was happening on July 2nd. It's still tough for me to envision it now.
It is. It's still surreal, and I can't wait for when LeBron scores his first basket. Right, when finally it's real. Like LeBron scoring points for the Lakers, getting assists for the Lakers. It's, man, even just seeing him in that Lakers jersey that he was wearing the other week. It's weird, and it's going to take some getting used to. But at the same time, I mean, what a cool time for Lakers fans who have dealt with a really difficult last 5 years to finally have that kind of breath of fresh air where they have a legit superstar to build around. And of course, all the struggles with watching Kobe Bryant kind of deal with injuries and age and all of that. Now it really feels like Lakers basketball is back.
Well, think about this too, Trav. First of all, I don't think any fan base feels sorry for the Lakers.
That's true.
We've had our fair share of success. But think about this. I try and put this into perspective. How about when the Lakers travel to Boston and you got LeBron James coming out of the tunnel at the Boston Garden wearing a Los Angeles Laker jersey, taking on the Boston Celtics. Like, think about when he's in Madison Square Garden. Even the road games that you go on where the Lakers are taking on the Utah Jazz or the Portland Trailblazers or the Denver Nuggets. Everywhere the Lakers go, these games are going to be the biggest game of the year for the opposing team's fan base. So as much as you and I kind of sit here and try and envision it, there are many fan bases out there that have circled that game on their calendar, and it's going to be a fun season. And really, as much fun as it's going to be to see and watch LeBron James, it's going to be just as fun to see how our young kids, how they react to these difficult circumstances, these big-time games, these nationally televised games, and these hostile environments throughout the season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The young kids have so much growing to do. And if they do, this team could really take off quickly. And yeah, I mean, hey, this is going to be an exciting season. I mean, Alan, can we just start the season now? Can we put in a call to Adam Silver and just say, hey, just start it already? I'm ready for Lakers basketball, man.
I'm just going to go hang out outside at Staples Center. You're more than welcome to join me.
Perfect.
I'm going to wait there for 30 days.
I'll meet you down there. We'll make some signs. It'll be great. And Lakers fans can come on down and join us. No, we're not really going to be there, but yeah. Hey, Alan, thanks so much for taking the time and hopping on here. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Trevor. Thanks for having me on. And as we get a little bit closer to the season, let's do it again. And I'll obviously have you on my Lakers Talk show as well.
100%. Yeah, we definitely need to keep this rolling, guys. This has been Alan Sliwa of ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at Lakers Talk ESPN, and make sure you check out the Lakers Talk show on ESPN Los Angeles. Always a great listen, great show. One that is one of my constant rotation as I'm listening to Lakers Talk shows. That's going to wrap things up for today. We'll be back next week with a brand new show. And of course, be on the lookout for Lakers Nation news feeds. Those are going to be coming out. We're doing player previews for the upcoming season, as well as any breaking Lakers news that happens between now and then. Till next time, my name is Trevor Lane, and you can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. See ya.